Hi guys, it's Jenny with Art for Good. I'm back and I am fulfilling my promise to you that I am going to continue my experiment with metallic backgrounds by using a canvas that I've done a spray paint background on and an acrylic paint pour, and then I'm going to try to resin it and see what exactly is going to happen and if it's going to cause me issues with the resin. So let's get started. I'm using this kit today. I bought off of Amazon. I'll put a link to this product. I haven't used this product before, but I do love that it comes with all of this stuff in it, and it's a good amount of resin for a pretty decent price. So we're gonna test it out today and see how it all works. Now, if you have followed my channel at all, you will know I have a love-hate relationship with resin, and actually I have not done any resin in probably over a year. I don't typically work with it. It is so finicky. It is difficult to perfect, but for you guys, I wanted to see if this was gonna work and look as amazing as it does in my head over this metallic background of a canvas. So all I'm doing here is mixing 1 part of the hardener with 1 part of the resin. It needs to be exactly the same parts of each one. And I'm mixing those two things up in a separate container. I wanted to make sure my surface was fully level. Any deviation in your surface area is going to cause issues with your resin sliding off one side. So please make sure to take an extra minute to check if your table or whatever surface you're working on is level. So now that I have those together, I'm going to stir for 3 minutes and then we're ready to pour. I am going to do this first side. This is a copper base over on the right, and I'm just using this tool they gave me to really spread it around. I was very surprised this resin doesn't have a strong smell. I am still wearing my respirator mask. I just think safety first, of course. But I didn't actually smell it when I had my mask off. And I have used some other products that were extremely difficult to tolerate just because of the odor. Even after it's dry, the piece still smells really like chemicals. So this was actually really great. I'm putting half on the other side. This is a rose gold base. And we're gonna see if there's any differences that pop up between these two colors. I'll put the links to the actual creation videos for both these pieces and the actual spray paint that I used in the description, so you can reference it later if you wanna try this yourself. Now you just wanna make sure you get it fully covered on all of the sides as well. Definitely make sure you're wearing gloves with this. Make sure all of your surface around, if you have a well ventilated area, that's preferable, but you also don't want any debris flying around. So if you're trying to do this outside, it's not going to go well because you're going to get, leaves and bugs and things in your artwork. So things to think about before you prep your space for resin. It is self-leveling, so the only thing you do need to worry about is sometimes with bigger canvases, these are 24 inches. Round canvases I don't have so much of a problem with, but square canvases I do, is the weight in the center, because the resin's gonna pool in the center of your canvas. It's gonna stretch that fabric down and pool in the center, and that's gonna actually pull the resin away from the edges and you'll get some gaps. There are some ways that you can prevent this. You can put some cardboard and foam underneath as a kind of a base or support under the center part of your canvas. But I have a whole tutorial on resin. I'll put a link to it here if you want to continue to check that out. All right, once I have made sure that it's fully covered, I'm going to take my torch. Make sure you use a paper towel since your hands are probably covered in resin before you grab your torch or really anything, because it will turn it to resin. And actually what you don't know here is that this torch has completely solidified after it all dried, and I can no longer use it because my thumb, which is pushing the button on the back, had resin on it, and now it no longer works. So I got to buy a brand new torch for my resin and acrylic pouring projects. So beware, that can happen. The other thing I want to do now is just kind of babysit it for a moment. I'm just gonna take a stick and go around all the edges and just make sure I'm getting all those drips. The drips can actually start pulling the resin down off of the sides, so you definitely don't want that. I will also say, make sure you mix more than enough resin. I don't think I mixed enough in this video here. You always want to mix more than you think you'll need because some will run off. The other thing that's very important to note is that the backs of these canvases are taped. Because those resin drips will solidify over time, the next 24 hours or so, it's really difficult to get those off if you don't have the back taped, at least the edges of it taped. And then I usually take off the tape about 24 hours after it's cured because it's definitely cured enough to handle it, but you can actually get the tape off. Otherwise, it does not come off. I have accidentally left a piece that had been resined for I think 2 weeks or so and tried to get the tape off the back. It was really a nightmare. And so just make a note to do it about 24 hours after your resin has set. So now I'm going to kind of leave these to process, or to cure, I should say. You want to make sure that you cover these up because you don't want dust or lint or bugs or anything flying into this resin while it's curing for 24 hours. So I have a tarp behind that I'm going to plan to put over the canvases. You can also just use a box. You can also use, if your piece of art is small enough, under 24 inches, you can use these awesome food protectors that you would use for a picnic outside. I will put a link to those. They're really inexpensive and I use them all the time for small pieces to keep debris out while they're drying or curing. Now I am going to let these cure and then I will show you what they look like after about 24 hours. All right, you guys, I am so excited. This is the final piece. Look at that. Perfection. Like I thought it would happen in my brain, and it did. And there are no issues with this copper spray paint underneath. It did not cause anything crazy to happen. I love it so much. I'm gonna do more of these for sure. Here are both of them. You'll see the rose gold option has a little bit of something odd happening with the background. It wasn't bubbles. It was almost like minor imperfections in the canvas. Really, it was like a magnifying glass with that metallic spray paint resin on top. It caused those you can really see those really well. So what I did is this is kind of a splashy ocean effect. I just made the splashes go up higher on the composition. So I just put, on top of the resin, little dots of white to help cover those up. And I think it's still gonna be perfectly fine. I will tell you, I did have to do 2 coats of resin in order to get this to work. And I'll tell you why. You know that tarp I was talking about before? It totally fell down into the resin and pulled off quite a bit from at least one of these pieces. And so I didn't mix enough for it to recover. So I figured I'll just go back and do a second coat. So like I said, make sure you mix more than enough resin and just use a box. I had a box sitting on top of these that worked really super well. It was easy for me to just lift it up and check on everything, make sure everything was fine. So I would recommend it for you to do it, but definitely give this a try and let me know how it turns out for you and what kind of creations you can make with these metallic backgrounds. If you're interested in some other compositions I've used with this metallic paint, I will leave you with a playlist here and you can continue to watch some of my videos. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I will see you next time.